Welcome to the realm where tales weave the fabric of our lives. From the tender whispers of bedtime stories that cradle our childhood dreams, to the grand epics that echo through the ages. Stories are the heartbeat of our existence. They are the invisible threads that connect us, the whispers of love and courage that ignite our spirits. Here, every story is a journey, a dance of words that promises to touch your soul and awaken the dreamer within. So settle in, dear listener, for a tale that will transport you to worlds unseen, to adventures untold. This is where magic begins. This is where you belong, a view to kill. Prologue whispers in the wind, in the hushed corridors of power, where secrets are currency and loyalty is a game. There lies a tale of intrigue that wins its way through the icy veins of the Arctic to the sun-kissed valleys of Silicon. It is a story that begins with a Whisperer whisper that grew into a storm. Jack Steele, an agent of shadows and light, finds himself entangled in a web spun by Victor Drake, a titan whose ambition knows no bounds. As the world remains blissfully unaware, a plot brews that could shake the very foundations of civilization. This is not just a story of espionage. It is a dance of destiny where every move could be the last, where every sentence unfolds a new facet of an intricate puzzle. From the opulent fields of the Royal Derby to the glittering lights of Paris, from the hallowed halls of technology to the iconic spans of bridges that watch over cities like silent guardians, our characters move with purpose driven by desires known only to them. So, dear reader, as you turn these pages, remember the world you know is but a facade, and the true story lies in the shadows, waiting to be told. Welcome to a tale of valor and vice, of allies found in enemies, and of battles fought not just with guns, but with the mind. Prepare to be whisked away on a journey where the stakes are as high as the heavens and as deep as the desires that drive the human heart. For in this game of spies, it is not just about surviving. It is about living to tell the tale. Welcome to Whispers in the Wind, the prologue to a story that promises to keep you on the edge of your seat, questioning, guessing, and thirsting for more. Certainly. Let's embark on the Jack Steele's thrilling Arctic adventure. Please note that due to the constraints of this platform, the Arctic wind howled like a pack of wolves, its icy breath piercing through the thickest of fabrics. Agent Jack Steele stood at the edge of the world, gazing into the white abyss that stretched beyond the horizon. His mission was clear, yet the path was fraught with peril. Commander North's voice crackled through the comms unit. "Steele, the package is located in the northern sector of the outpost. Retrieve it before the storm hits." Steele adjusted his goggles and set off, his skis cutting a solitary figure against the vast expanse of snow. The hidden Mi-6 outpost was a mere speck in the distance, but Steele's determination was unwavering. He had always been at home in the extremes, the desert's heat, the jungle's humidity, and now the Arctic's chill. As he approached the fallen comrade's last known coordinates, Steele's sharp eyes caught a glint of metal half buried in the snow. He dug through the icy crust, retrieving a small, encrypted device, the critical item that held secrets worth more than any treasure. "The cold never bothered me anyway," Steele quipped to himself, a wry smile hidden beneath his frost-laden beard. He knew the dangers that lay ahead, but the thrill of the chase was what drove him. It was the dance with death, the flirtation with fate that made him feel alive. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Steele's instincts kicked in as he heard the unmistakable rumble of an avalanche. With no time to lose, he launched himself down the treacherous slope, the white fury chasing him like a relentless predator. The chase was on. Steele's skis carved through the snow with precision, each turn a calculated risk, each jump a defiance of nature's wrath. He could feel the avalanche's breath on his neck, the roar deafening, the threat imminent in a daring maneuver. Steel veered towards a narrow crevice, the only chance of escape. The avalanche thundered past, a mere hair's breadth away, its icy jaws snapping shut just as Steel shot out the other side, a burst of adrenaline propelling him forward. He had evaded death once more, but the mission was far from over. As Steel made his way to the rendezvous point, he knew that enemy agents were not far behind. The game of cat and mouse had begun, and in the Arctic's unforgiving embrace, only the most cunning would survive. The Royal Derby was a spectacle of grandeur, where the elite convened under the guise of sport, their true games hidden beneath layers of finery and false camaraderie. Agent Jack Steel, clad in a tailored suit that concealed his athletic build, surveyed the scene with a practiced eye, his target Victor Drake, an industrial magnate with a reputation as spotless as the horses he raced, yet as dark as the secrets he harbored, Colonel Chesterfield, a man whose military bearing was as unmistakable as his aristocratic lineage, joined Steel at the railings. Every horse has its day, but Drake seemed to have a season, he remarked, his gaze following the sleek animals as they paraded before the crowd. Steel nodded, his attention divided between the Colonel's insights and the movements of Drake, who stood across the field, basking in the adulation of his peers. Drake's horses are a marvel, Colonel, but I suspect his winning streak isn't just a matter of good breeding. The Colonel's eyes twinkled with a mix of amusement and conspiracy. Indeed, Steel. And that's precisely why Her Majesty's service could use a man of your talents. As the race commenced, the thunder of hooves was matched only by the pounding of Steel's heart. He and Chesterfield melted into the throng, their presence unnoticed. Their mission clear, they needed to observe Drake, to peel back the layers of his public persona and reveal the treachery beneath. The race was a blur of color and sound, but Steel's focus never wavered. He watched as Drake's lead horse, a magnificent bay named Sovereign's Sprint, took the lead. The animal moved with unnatural precision, as if guided by an unseen force. When the race ended, and Drake's horse claimed victory yet again, the magnate's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. There was a hardness there, a cold calculation that sent a shiver down Steel's spine. The Colonel leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. Notice the jockey's left stirrup. It's rigged with a device, subtle, but deadly effective. Steel's jaw tightened. The implications were clear. Drake was playing a dangerous game, one that extended far beyond the racetrack. We need to get closer, Steel decided. Tonight at the auction, under the cover of dusk, the estate transformed into a playground for the wealthy. The auction an excuse for the continued display of excess. Steel and Chesterfield, now dressed in the casual elegance befitting the occasion, circulated among the guests, their eyes and ears open. As Drake showcased his prized horses, Steel slipped away, his instincts leading him to the stables. There, in the quiet of the night, he discovered the truth. The horses, champions on the surface, bore scars of a more sinister nature. Hidden compartments within the stables held vials of performance-enhancing drugs, their contents enough to turn any horse into a winner. Steel's hands clenched into fists. Drake's ambition was not limited to the racetrack. It was a mere front for something far more insidious. With each revelation, the puzzle pieces fell into place, forming a picture of corruption that threatened to shake the very foundations of the sport. As Steel emerged from the shadows, he knew that the real race had just begun. A race against time, against power, against an enemy who would stop at nothing to win. Paris, the city of lights, where the sane whispered tales of love and revolution, was about to witness a dance of shadows beneath its glowing façade. Agent Jack Steele sat at a wrought iron table outside a quaint cafe, the aroma of freshly baked croissants mingling with the scent of impending peril. Across from him, Pierre Littletail, a man whose loyalty to truth was as renowned as his penchant for fine wine, shifted uneasily. "Paris is charming, but deadly," he murmured, his eyes darting to the passers-by, who seemed more interested in their own reflections than the world around them. Before Steele could press for details, a sharp crack shattered the momentary peace, and Pierre slumped forward, a small red bloom spreading across his chest. The cafe erupted into chaos, but Steele's focus narrowed to a single figure retreating into the crowd-monic danger, the assassin whose name was whispered with fear in the underworld. Steele gave chase, his instincts honed from years in the field, guiding him as he weaved through the panicked masses. The pursuit led him to the base of the Eiffel Tower, its iron latticework a testament to human ingenuity, and now, a backdrop for a deadly ascent. Monique scaled the structure with the grace of a cat, her silhouette a fleeting ghost against the Paris skyline. Steele followed, his determination a match for her agility. The climb was treacherous, the stakes life or death above them. The city stretched out in all its historical splendor, oblivious to the drama unfolding in its heart as they reached the summit. The wind howled its fury, a fitting orchestra for the confrontation that awaited. Paris may be charming. Steele called out to Monique, but it's time for your deadly waltz to end. Their eyes locked, two warriors acknowledging the other's skill. Knowing that only one would leave the tower alive, the battle was swift. A clash of steel and will, each move a potential finale, but in the end, it was Steele's resolve that proved unbreakable, with Monique subdued. Steele retrieved the intel she carried, the key to unraveling Drake's nefarious plans as he descended the tower. The city lights flickered below, a reminder that in the shadows of beauty, danger often lurked, waiting for the unwary. The moon hung low over Drake's estate, a silver sentinel in the night sky. Jack Steele's breath formed misty clouds as he watched the opulent mansion from the shadows. The horse auction had drawn to a close, the wealthy bidders departing with their prized acquisitions, oblivious to the undercurrent of deceit flowing beneath the evening's festivities. Steele slipped through the estate's perimeter, his steps silent on the dewy grass. The stables loomed ahead, an architectural marvel that housed champions, but tonight, they were a façade for something far more sinister. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of hay and the soft nickering of horses. Sir Reginald Horsewell, the renowned equine expert, was examining a stallion, his expression troubled. These horses are champions, but at what cost? He mused aloud, unaware of Steele's presence. Steele emerged from the darkness, his voice low. Perhaps the cost is greater than we can fathom. Sir Reginald, the expert turned, startled, then relaxed as he recognized the agent. Steele, I should be known. Me six would send their best. Have you seen this? He gestured to a hidden compartment in the stall, revealing vials of a clear substance. Steele inspected the vials, his mind piecing together the puzzle. Performance enhancers, he concluded. Drake's horses aren't just bred for victory, they're chemically engineered for it. Sir Reginald nodded grimly. And it's not just the horses. These drugs are a prototype for something much larger. Drake's ambitions reach beyond the racetrack. The implications were clear. Victor Drake was planning to monopolize more than just the equine industry. His methods, if left unchecked, could devastate the competitive balance of sports worldwide. Steele pocketed a vial as evidence. We need to expose him. But we must tread carefully. Drake is dangerous. And we're not just dealing with horses anymore. The two men made their way to the estate's lab, a state-of-the-art facility that belied its rustic exterior. There, amidst the beakers and digital displays, lay the heart of Drake's operation. Steele's fingers danced over the keyboard. Hacking into the lab's secure files, the screen flickered, revealing a list of transactions and communications that spanned the globe. The network was vast, its reach extending to the highest echelons of power. "Drake's been busy," Steele muttered, his eyes scanning the data. "He's not just rigging races, he's playing God with genetics." The sound of footsteps alerted them to danger. Monique Danger, Drake's lethal enforcer, had arrived. Her eyes were cold. Her hand steady on the pistol, she aimed at Steele's heart. "Mr. Steele, always a pleasure to disrupt your plans," she said with a smirk. Steele stood, facing her with a calm he didn't feel. "Monique, you don't have to do this. Drake's using you, just like he uses everyone else." A tense silence filled the room, broken only by the distant whinny of a horse. Then, with a swift motion, Sir Reginald hurled a beaker at Monique, creating a momentary distraction. Steele didn't hesitate, he lunged, disarming her with a practiced move. With Monique secured, Steele turned to Sir Reginald. "We've got what we need. Let's get this information to me 6 before Drake realizes we're onto him." As they left the lab, the estate silent around them. Steele knew this was just the beginning. Drake's web of conspiracy was vast, and unraveling it would be his most challenging mission yet. But for now, they had struck a blow against the equine conspiracy, and it was time to plan their next move in the shadowy world of espionage. The cityscape of the tech metropolis glittered with a million lights, each one a beacon of human ingenuity and ambition. High above the bustling streets, in a lab that was the nerve center of technological advancement, Agent Jack Steele and tech mogul Sandra Silicon stood amidst a chaos of cables and screens. "The world as we know it hinges on stopping Drake." Sandra's voice was tense, her eyes locked on the data streaming across the monitors. "His plan to monopolize the tech industry isn't just about power, it's about control." Steele nodded, his gaze equally intense. "And if he succeeds in destroying the heartland of technology, hell set progress back decades." The room hummed with the sound of servers and the scent of ozone. Steele and Sandra were racing against time, decoding the labyrinthine master plan Victor Drake had set in motion. The stakes couldn't be higher. The tech metropolis was the lifeblood of innovation, and Drake's ambition threatened to clot its arteries. Drake's ambition could leave the world in ruins, Sandra repeated, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she bypassed firewalls and dove deeper into the encrypted files. Steele moved to join her, his own expertise in espionage complementing her technical prowess. Together, they unraveled layers of code, each one a step closer to the truth. Hours passed, the night deepening outside as they pieced together the puzzle. Drake's scheme was audacious, a series of calculated moves designed to cripple competitors and seize control of the market. But there was more, a hidden agenda that chilled Steele to the bone. "He's not just after the companies," Steele murmured, his eyes narrowing. "He's targeting the very infrastructure, the power grids, the data centers. If they fall, everything connected to them collapses." Sandra's face paled. "That's millions of lives, hospitals, emergency services, transportation. We have to stop him," Steele said, determination stealing his voice. "We need to expose his plan to the world." But as they prepared to leak the information, the lab's lights flickered ominously. A shadow fell across the room, and they turned to see Monique Danger, her presence a silent threat. "You're too late, Steele," she said, her voice a cold whisper. "Drake's already begun." The lab erupted into chaos. the screens flashing warnings as systems across the city started to fail. Steele and Sandra sprang into action, their earlier work giving them a fighting chance to counter Drake's moves. It was a battle of wits and wills, fought not with guns but with keystrokes. As Sandra worked to restore the systems, Steele engaged Monique in a verbal duel. Buying time with words as sharp as blades, the struggle raged, the fate of the city hanging in the balance. But through the combined efforts of Steele and Sandra, the tide began to turn. One by one, the systems came back online, the impending disaster averted by mere seconds as dawn broke. The city breathed a collective sigh of relief, unaware of how close it had come to the brink. Steele and Sandra stood in the lab, the morning light casting long shadows across the room. "We've won the battle," Sandra said, exhaustion lining her face. "But the war against Drake is far from over." Steele looked out at the awakening city, its resilience a testament to the human spirit. "Then well fight," he said. Until the end, the city's skyline was a jagged line against the dawn sky, the iconic bridge spanning the river like a steel ribbon. Atop this colossal structure, Agent Jack Steele faced Victor Drake, the mastermind whose schemes had nearly brought the world to its knees. Drake's eyes were cold, his stance that of a man who had nothing left to lose. "Welcome, Steele. I've been expecting you," he said. His voice barely audible over the howling wind, Steele stepped forward, the helicopter's blades slicing the air above them. "It's over, Drake. Your plans, your ambitions, the end here." Drake laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning even now. My influence spreads like a shadow across the globe." The two men were a study in contrast. Steele, the embodiment of duty and resilience; Drake, the personification of greed and corruption. They were the two sides of a coin, forever locked in a battle for the soul of the world. "This ends now." "Drake," Steele shouted, his voice carrying the weight of every life Drake had endangered. With a snarl, Drake lunged, his movements fueled by desperation. Steele met him head-on, their struggle a dance of death high above the waking city. The bridge cables groaned and snapped, the structure swaying dangerously under the force of their battle. Below, the city's inhabitants looked up in horror, their fates hanging in the balance as Steele and Drake fought for control. The helicopter pilot and Mi-6 ally maneuvered the aircraft into position, ready to act on Steele's signal. The fight was brutal, each blow a potential endgame. Steele's training and resolve were tested as never before, but he was driven by a cause greater than himself. He fought not just for victory, but for justice. As the sun crested the horizon, its rays illuminating the city, Steele saw his chance. With a deft move, he disarmed Drake, sending the weapon skittering across the bridge's surface. Drake stumbled, his back to the void, his empire crumbling around him. "You may have stopped me, Steele, but there will be others," he hissed. Steele advanced, his expression resolute, "and it'll be there to stop them too. Because as long as people like you threaten the world, there will be people like me to defend it." With a final effort, Steele subdued Drake, signaling the helicopter as the aircraft descended. Steele secured Drake, ensuring that he would face justice for his crimes. The city breathed a sigh of relief as Steele and his captive were lifted from the bridge, the threat neutralized. And as the helicopter flew towards the horizon, Steele looked back at the city he had saved, knowing that his mission was complete for now. The battle on the bridge would be remembered as the day when one man stood against the darkness and emerged victorious. It was the end of Drake's reign of terror, but for Jack Steele, it was just another day in the life of a hero. This concludes the thrilling saga of Jack Steele, bringing closure to the high-stakes conflict while leaving the door open for future adventures. As you complete the narrative, ensure that the resolution ties up loose ends and provides a satisfying conclusion to the story's arc. Epilogue: Echoes of Triumph. As the dust settles on the once tumultuous battlefields, the world spins on, blissfully ignorant of the thin line it tread between order and chaos. The echoes of triumph resonate through the hallowed halls of Me 6, where Jack Steele, the unsung hero, stands a silent sentinel. The bridges that once bore the weight of destiny now stand as monuments to the courage of those who dared to dream of peace. Victor Drake's empire of shadows has crumbled, but the lessons of his ambition linger, a stark reminder of the fragility of the world's stage in the quiet aftermath. Steele walks the streets of London, the city's heartbeat a familiar lullaby. The faces that pass him by are those of strangers, yet in each, he sees the reflection of a life saved, a future secured. The Royal Derby resumes its pomp and pageantry. The Eiffel Tower once again a beacon for lovers, not a backdrop for treachery. Silicon Valley buzzes with renewed vigor, its pulse the rhythm of progress. And yet, in the stillness of his solitude, Steele knows the dance is far from over. There will be other Drakes, other dangers lurking in the unseen corners of the world, but for now, he allows himself a moment to breathe, to feel the sun on his face, and to savor the victory that is not his alone, but the world's. So, as the final page turns, we bid farewell to Jack Steele, not with goodbye, but with a promise that, as long as there are whispers in the wind, there will be those who listen, those who stand ready to guard the delicate balance of peace. And to you, dear reader, who journeyed through the perils and passions of this tale, may you carry its spirit with you, for every end is but a new beginning, and every epilogue a prologue to the next great adventure.